Good evening. Welcome to Team8. Hi, everyone. We are happy to have you here. Just a few words. I'm Rekefet Rusa Kaminoach, and we are here at Team8. 2 words about us. So we are a very unique venture group. We build and invest in companies in cyber, data, fintech, and digital health. But this night is only about fintech. We are happy to have you here, and we are excited to join forces with This Week in Fintech. And I would like, where is Hadar? Hadar, my partner, please. I want you to say a few words about Team8.
Hi, everyone. So this can be very quick. It's going to be just the first few sentences that we tell people when we meet with them one-on-one. So you can have some more information for the next time that we talk to you about what is Team8 if you were shy and never felt comfortable asking how come there are so many people in Team8 and what are you all doing? So Team8, we have Team8 Capital, which is the VC side of the house, which I'm part of. And then we have the building side of the house, which Galia and Rekefet and Ronen and Liran are part of. And we all work jointly as one team, which is amazing and allows us to basically stay on top of everything that's happening in Israel from a fintech perspective. We're super bullish on fintech, as you might know, and we're very excited to have you here. And yeah, passing it on.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. I'm Christina Charavalli. I work at Unit during the day, but I also work at This Week in Fintech by night. So for those of you who don't know This Week in Fintech, we started as a newsletter. We branched out into a community of our readers, and we now throw events such as this one with great partners like Team8. And huge thank you to Galia, Yoav, Brett, the whole team at Team8 for having us here in this amazing space. And we also launched a fintech fund 2 years ago. So that is This Week in Fintech. I'm really excited to be moderating this panel, Innovation at the Intersection, Banks and Fintech Reshaping Financial Services. And on my way over here, no one actually warned me that before you come to Israel, you get a full-on interview at the airport. And the security agent is like, is this business or pleasure? And I'm telling her it's business. And she's like, so what do you do? And I'm like, all right, how do we explain banking as a service to the airport security? But it was fun. At the end, she said, well, that's all rocket science to me. And so I'm very excited to be with some of the best rocket scientists across the industry. We've got the investor perspective, the compliance perspective, the bank perspective, and the banking as a service perspective. So we'll keep this very brief. We're going to open it to questions at the end. So if you have any, feel free to just raise your hand. We want this to be fun. But Ehud, get us started. Why don't you share with the audience, who the different stakeholders are in the banking as a service operating model?
Hi, everybody. So at the bottom of the pyramid, the base of everything are the banks. Bank partners are the ones that actually have the, thank you. Are the ones with the license. They are the regulated entity. They are the ones providing financial services to the end customers. They're tasked with regulatory compliance and oversight. And sometimes they provide the services to the end customers. Sometimes they use distribution channels such as fintechs. Fintechs are basically the ones that take these services, package them in a way that's more custom and more relevant for end customers, and put them in the market. On top of banks, you typically see an abstraction layer or a banking as a service provider such as Unit. Unit basically makes those services accessible to technology companies. You don't have to be a fintech expert in order to offer financial services. And on top of us, there are our technology companies and fintechs that basically pick and choose the right set of services tailored to their customer base and put them in the market. The customer base ranges from, with Unit, it can be from like Fortune 500 companies that are banking on the platform to like immigrants and new American citizens that don't even have, or not citizens, that don't even have social security numbers, and basically everything in between.
Thank you. And Noam, can you elaborate a little bit on the role that compliance plays in all of this?
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Whoa. Oh, my God. I will try to handle it. I have this funny voice. Yeah, so basically a bit of context that most of you probably already familiar with. You know, when you or I making like an online action, sending money, transaction, opening a bank account, asking for a card, there is a regulated entity behind the scene that is liable, is responsible to make sure that procedures like AML, like to avoid money laundering, fraud, and transaction monitoring were taking place, right? So traditionally, those banks are really risk averse, right? But this is why it was so difficult to work with those banks in the future. And one of the main innovations and value propositions that actually companies like Unit offer to their clients is that they really simplified all of the compliance that they need in order to operate. But the challenge that comes with it is that right now there is this fintech, the neobank, right? That they launch in a week or two or a month and start serving their clients. There is in the middle Unit banking as a service companies. And there are those banks that they are actually the ones that are liable about everything that is happening behind the scene. So now really the challenge of fintech and bank partnership is building this trust that those banks will feel fine with offering those services to the end customers and will trust the banking as a service platforms, right? And with it comes also lots of opportunities, right? So like basically banking as a service, it's almost started like as a card as a service, right? Everyone offered cards. But now, as I would a bit say, kind of like it started to grow to a wider range of products. So why not offering also loans, right? And insurance and treasury management. And to do that, there are lots of like long tail of complexities when it comes to compliance. Quite often, actually, the banking as a service companies, they need to work with multiple bank partners in order to serve their clients. So now they need to share not the information, not just with one bank partner and not just about one thing, but to share it across like multiple bank partner and give them the visibility they need in order to trust the procedures that are taking place. So this is also about like, I think that we have to mention like the global aspect, right? Like to grow globally. So you need more bank partners, you need more rules, you need more compliance procedures. Yeah, so basically I would say that compliance is one of the key challenges, but also one of the biggest opportunities when tackling and playing it well for banking as a service, as an industry. Yeah.
Thank you. So these days you can't have a panel and not talk about generative AI. So Galia, how will this influence the collaboration between the fintechs and the bank partners?
Okay. All right. Yeah, so Gen AI. Who has an opinion about Gen AI? I think everyone has. I think, first of all, it's quite amazing to see technology that's being adopted so rapidly by all size of companies and individuals, and everyone is testing ChatGPT and Bard and all the different, do-it-yourself tools that are out there. So it's great to see the rapid adoption on the one hand, but of course it's also quite a messy adoption, and people are still a bit hesitant to understand exactly how this will unfold. So the early kind of use cases of generative AI have been around customer support and mostly kind of streamlining very heavy kind of manual type of tasks. We haven't yet really seen the full implications of generative AI as it will fully automate tasks like underwriting and very complex tasks that are part of the financial services. So if you think about what is needed to really be successful with generative AI and make a difference, I think it boils down a lot to the data. And on that perspective, to your question, the more traditional players are actually the ones that hold historical data, and through that they can train models and have better generative AI applications. So insurance companies and banks are very well positioned to be significant players in that. But while they have the data, they don't necessarily have the tech ability to launch the best user experience, to the market. And so I think that we're still going to see banks with a certain advantage, and we're going to see fintechs, and that collaboration between the two may change slightly, and the roles will potentially change a little bit. But I think it holds great potential in that collaboration where fintechs can come in, better organize the data, and leverage technology to fully capitalize on the promise of generative AI. So I think from that perspective, us in Israel are very kind of have strong roots in B2B. And I think I'm excited to see a lot of fintech companies building tools and kind of capabilities that will empower traditional players to really make the best of Gen AI.
Thanks. And so, Yoni, from your perspective at Cross River, what are some of the important considerations maybe folks in the audience out here should take into account when they're choosing their fintech or their bank partner?
Okay, so I think from our perspective, and Noam touched on this, with how significant compliance and regulatory requirements are to banks when working with fintechs, I think the most major factor in the success between a relationship with a bank and a fintech partner is the understanding of the regulatory and compliance requirements. So the fintech company has to educate itself and really understand what requirements the bank has to meet, because they affect the fintech company and apply to them as well. Everything we have to do in the eyes of the FDIC gets, moved over to the fintech partners we work with. So that's one. And I think the bank's responsibility in that regard is to perform very substantial due diligence on the fintech partners when we choose them. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have when onboarding partners is the long and substantial period of time and effort that we have to put into due diligence on the fintech partners to make sure they have the structure and the processes in place. And this is really critical to the bank, because this determines whether or not we're in compliance and whether or not we get a consent letter from the FDIC. So I think if I look at the only and very rare cases where we had to part with a fintech partner, it was due to lack of compliance and adherence to the requirements. So definitely a very big challenge, but also, like Noam said, I think a great opportunity for a lot of companies to pop up and help in that process of due diligence and move it from 8 months of onboarding a partner to down to normal onboarding.
So Noam, you're onto something. What audience questions can we help answer? Anyone have something for any of the panelists? I was told Israelis were very outgoing. Yes.
Shall I take it? Yeah. What interesting space in fintech we believe will boom in the next year to come? What won't, really? No, I think it's a great moment in time to be in fintech. If you look at the numbers, 2021 was a great boom, and now you see the numbers going down. But below all of that, there's a true need by the end customers, whether it's corporates, whether it's individuals, to see innovation and a true expectation for better experiences. And so I think we're going to continuously see a lot of interesting companies come out of Israel and globally. I think I'm particularly excited about alternative lending. This is an industry that, if you look at the existing players, all of them were born in a different macroeconomics environment where there was zero interest, and now they need to make sense of their portfolios, and not all of them will be able to do so. And also, they haven't really delivered yet on the promise of automating underwriting completely. So it's been a lot about improving application and kind of streamlining the onboarding process. I think now there's a great opportunity for new companies to come in with a clean sheet and get started with different business models and really leveraging, again, sorry to repeat myself, but Gen AI, for instance, and not only AI, just AI as well, to really automate underwriting. And so I'm very excited to see what will come out of that.
any other audience questions? Sai.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sai. I'm a product manager at Unit as well. But referring to your question, so do you see a difference for the consumer space and the business space regarding what you just mentioned? Like a different lending approach, more potential to one segment to the other?
Good question. No, generally, I think there's great opportunity on both ends. I think we've seen much more development and investment on the consumer side, while the B2B side of the business is probably the bigger one in terms of market potential. So it's slightly slower as it is a little bit more complex to deploy new solutions. But I'm super excited on the B2B side. I mean, we have a great company called 40Cs that leverages technology to embed payment terms into cross-border trade transactions, which, if you think about it, requires very deep understanding of that specific industry, a lot of data points that need to be leveraged, and kind of, if you deliver it in an embedded manner, has a great promise of really streamlining the transactions. So that's just one example, but you know, there are great examples out there. So definitely B2B.
All right, well, maybe one final question, Ehud, for you to end on. What are some of the misconceptions or misperceptions, things that people are getting wrong about bank and fintech partnerships that you're seeing?
You good? Cool. I think the primary one is that fintech is inherently riskier than traditional banking. I think that when we look at the relationships that fintechs that work with us have with our bank partners, they help these relatively smaller banks diversify their deposit base. They're not over-indexing on any one industry, like I'm only banking startups. They get like a wide range of deposits, like I mentioned, from big companies, healthcare benefits, consumers. And I think that by partnering with platforms, banks get access to oversight solutions that are built for scalability that these smaller banks are unlikely to build themselves. So I think that it actually brings some shock absorption to these banks and to the industry rather than the opposite.
Thank you. Well, we hope that you'll all continue this conversation with us over some amazing drinks and food provided by our friends at Team8. Thank you all to the four of you panelists. Thank you to everyone here in the audience for joining. And we're going to do this again soon. So cheers. Thanks, everybody.